8 marriages, 8 husbands. In every single one of these cases, the woman closest to the victim became the primary suspect. This is Los Angeles County, 1990 through 2026, and these are the cases where investigators, prosecutors, and juries determined that a wife killed her husband. Some of these cases are widely documented. Others are barely known outside a courtroom docket. All of them are real. Before we begin, one case in this list has not gone to trial. The defendant is presumed innocent under the law, and we will treat it that way throughout. Stay with us, because case number 4 involves a hairdresser to the stars, an 8-year investigation, and a verdict that came almost a decade after the killing. Welcome to Truth to Bear Crime Stories. If true crime told the right way matters to you, hit subscribe, tap the like button, and drop a comment with which case you want us to revisit in full. Let's begin. Case 1. Angelina Rodriguez was born on June 1, 1968. By the year 2000, she had been married 3 times before. Her 4th marriage would end in a murder conviction and a death sentence, later reduced, decades on, to life without parole. The victim was Jose Francisco Rodriguez, known as Frank, a special education teacher with the Los Angeles Unified School District. He was 41 years old. Angelina and Frank met in February of the year 2000, while both were working at a school called Angel Gate Academy in San Luis Obispo. They married quickly on April 8, 2000. Prosecutors would later present evidence connecting this marriage to an earlier death. In 1993, Rodriguez's 13-month-old daughter, Alicia, died. At the time, the death was ruled accidental. Years later, during the penalty phase of Rodriguez's murder trial, prosecutors presented evidence suggesting the infant's death was not accidental. A second daughter, 9 years old at the time of the events in this case, lived in the household throughout. 2.5 months into the marriage, on July 15, 2000, an insurance agent named Mickey Maricino visited the couple's home and sold a $250,000 life insurance policy on Frank, naming Angelina as the primary beneficiary. According to the California Supreme Court's later account of the case, Frank asked why they needed additional insurance at all, since he already had coverage through his job and through the National Guard. Prosecutors alleged that Rodriguez made 3 separate attempts on her husband's life. The first, they said, involved Oleander, a poisonous plant. The second involved loosening a gas cap on the clothes dryer. The third attempt, prosecutors argued, involved antifreeze, administered in Gatorade. On September 7, 2000, Frank went to Kaiser Hospital in Baldwin Park with vomiting and diarrhea. Doctors diagnosed food poisoning and told him to stay hydrated with Gatorade. 2 days later, in the early hours of Saturday, September 9, 2000, Frank died at the couple's home on Marconi Street in Montebello. A Montebello police officer, Stephen Sharp, found his body at 3:19 in the morning. The investigation turned on toxicology testing, which, notably, Rodriguez herself had pushed for, ultimately revealed ethylene glycol, the toxic component of antifreeze, along with evidence of oleander poisoning. Investigators also found a significant behavioral detail. On the morning Frank died, Rodriguez called the life insurance agent to ask about the payout process. An employee at the insurance company, Elaine Nash, later testified that the company never paid out the policy. Phone records also contradicted Rodriguez's claim that she had received an anonymous tip suggesting Frank had been poisoned. Rodriguez was arrested in February of 2001 in Paso Robles. Her trial began in the fall of 2003. In October of that year, a jury convicted her of first-degree murder with special circumstances, murder by poison, and murder for financial gain, along with one count of attempting to dissuade a witness. A related charge of solicitation of murder ended in a mistrial. During the penalty phase, the jury heard evidence connecting Rodriguez to her infant daughter's death nearly a decade earlier. On January 12, 2004, Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge William R. Pounders sentenced Rodriguez to death, stating that her guilt had been proven to what he called an absolute certainty, and describing the case as among the coldest he had encountered in 20 years on the bench. The California Supreme Court unanimously upheld both the conviction and the death sentence in 2014. In a written opinion by Justice Ming W. Chen, which found ample evidence connecting Rodriguez to her daughter's death as well. Rodriguez was later granted a new penalty phase hearing and was resentenced to death in November of 2010. In 2024, she was granted yet another sentencing hearing, this time on the basis of an ineffective assistance of counsel claim. Prosecutors declined to pursue the death penalty a third time. On October 31, 2024, Judge James R. Dabney resentenced Rodriguez to life without the possibility of parole. She remains incarcerated at the Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla. The case was investigated by the Montebello Police Department and prosecuted by the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. It has since been documented in the book A Taste for Murder by Burl Barer and Frank C. Girardo. That's case number 1. If you want the full-length version of Angelina Rodriguez's story, let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe before we move to case number 2. Case 2. Manling Tsang Williams. This case involves the deaths of 3 family members in a single household, a husband and 2 children. Because minors are involved, we will state only their ages and the legal outcome without describing how the events occurred. Manling Tsang Williams was 29 years old at the time of the crime. Her husband, Neil Williams, was 27. The couple's 2 sons, Devin, age 7, and Ian, age 3, also died as a result of this case. Both boys' deaths were charged and later convicted as first-degree murder. On August 7, 2007, at the family's condominium in Rowland Heights, in the 18,200 block of Camino Bello, all 3 family members died. At trial, prosecutors used expert testimony regarding gastric emptying, the digestion process, to establish a timeline, arguing that the children's deaths occurred before Williams left the home that evening to have dinner with co-workers from Marie Callender's at a nearby TGI Fridays restaurant. Williams initially denied any involvement when questioned by investigators. She later admitted to the killings after detectives confronted her with a piece of physical evidence, a bloody cigarette box recovered from her car. At trial, Deputy District Attorney Stacy Okunwiezi argued that Williams acted out of a desire for personal freedom, telling the jury that Williams wanted to pursue a relationship with a man she had known and been interested in during high school. The defense, led by attorneys Thomas Althouse and Hide Takasugi, did not dispute that Williams committed the killings, but argued against a finding of premeditation, presenting evidence of Williams's learning disabilities and a history of criticism and abuse within the household. On November 4, 2010, a jury convicted Williams of 3 counts of first-degree murder with special circumstances, specifically multiple murder and lying in wait. The case then proceeded to a penalty phase to determine sentencing. The first penalty phase jury could not reach a unanimous decision. According to CBS Los Angeles, 8 of the 12 jurors favored a death sentence, but the panel deadlocked. A second penalty phase jury, made up of 6 men and 6 women, unanimously recommended death. Pomona Superior Court Judge Robert Martinez formally imposed the death sentence, describing the case in court as one of the coldest he had presided over. Williams remains on death row in California, prosecuted throughout by the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. Extensive coverage of the case appeared in the San Gabriel Valley Tribune and the Whittier Daily News. That's case number 2. This case remains one of the more difficult ones on this list, given the ages of the children involved, and we've kept our coverage of it strictly limited to what the court record establishes. If you'd like to see a longer breakdown of any part of this trial, tell us in the comments. Let's move to case number 3. Case 3. Misun Yu. This case involves a marriage that lasted only a few months before it ended in a homicide investigation just steps from a Los Angeles Police Department station. Misun Yu, a Korean national, born on August 22, 1990, was 28 years old at the time of her sentencing. Her husband, Tae Kyung-sung, known as Andy, was 31 years old and ran a karaoke club in Koreatown called The Barcode. According to NBC Los Angeles and Deputy District Attorney Irene Lee, Sung surprised friends and family by marrying Yu quickly after she returned to the country in March of 2017, making them newlyweds of roughly 4 months by the time of his death. In the early morning hours, between July the 30th and July the 31st, 2017, Sung died from a stab wound at the couple's apartment on Menlo Avenue, directly across the street from the Laps Olympic Division station. Responding officers found his body in a chair with a knife in his chest. When first questioned, Yu told officers that a man had broken into the apartment and attacked her husband. She later told investigators she had no memory of the event. Prosecutors said, blood found in the bathroom sink, the kitchen sink, and the shower drain indicated an attempt to clean the scene. According to court testimony, Yu told investigators, at one point, quote, "Just say I did it. I don't remember," end quote. Deputy District Attorneys Irene Lee and Colby Cano from the Family Violence Division of the District Attorney's Office argued that the killing followed an alcohol-related argument between the couple and that Sung, a successful business owner with no documented history of mental health issues, had no apparent reason to have taken his own life. Addressing an alternative theory raised by the defense attorney David Paik argued that Sung had physically abused Yu, presenting a photograph showing bruising on her face, and argued that the blood spatter evidence was consistent with either self-defense or suicide rather than an unprovoked attack. In October of 2018, a jury convicted Yu of second-degree murder, along with a sentencing allegation for the use of a knife. On November the 26th, 2018, Judge Ronald Cohen sentenced Yu. According to the appellate record in People v. Misun Yu, case number B294144, decided by the California Court of Appeal in 2020, Yu was sentenced to a prison term of 15 years to life for the murder, plus 1 additional year for the deadly weapon enhancement. Local media widely reported this as a 16 years to life sentence. The trial court case number was BA 459696. The investigation was conducted by the Los Angeles Police Department, and the case was covered by NBC Los Angeles, Kotla, and My News LA. In addition to official releases from the District Attorney's Office. That's case number 3, and it's one of the more legally contested cases on this list, given the dueling defense and prosecution theories presented at trial. If you want us to go deeper on how self-defense claims are evaluated in cases like this one, let us know below. Now, case number 4. Monica Sementilli. This is the case we mentioned at the start of this episode, an 8-year investigation into the death of a well-known hairstylist, and a trial that examined an affair, encrypted messaging apps, and millions of dollars. Monica Sementilli was 53 years old at the time of her conviction. Her husband, Fabio Sementilli, was 49 years old, a highly regarded hairdresser and the vice president of education for Wella, a professional salon division of Procter & Gamble. The couple had 2 daughters together. Their younger daughter, Isabella, was the one who found her father's body. On January the 23rd, 2017, Fabio died from a stab wound on the back patio of the family's home in Woodland Hills, just before the couple's 20th wedding anniversary. Whoever committed the killing left the scene in Fabio's Porsche, which was later found abandoned nearby. 2 other individuals were charged in connection with this case. Robert Louis Baker, 63, who prosecutors said was involved in a relationship with Monica Sementilli, pleaded no contest in July of 2023 to first-degree murder and conspiracy, and is serving a sentence of life without parole. The second man, Christopher Austin, 39, pleaded no contest to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 16 years to life. Austin testified for the prosecution, stating that Baker told him Monica wanted him gone, that the motive involved insurance money, and that the front door of the home had been left unlocked ahead of time. The Los Angeles Police Department's Robbery Homicide Division led an 8-year investigation into Fabio's death. Investigators built their case around the extramarital relationship, communications sent through encrypted messaging applications, including WhatsApp and Viber, shared login credentials for the home security system, and surveillance and social media evidence. Baker's blood and DNA were also recovered at the scene, reportedly after he sustained a cut to his finger. A forensic accountant testified that Fabio Sementilli did not have a will at the time of his death, meaning that under state law, his wife stood to inherit more than $2 million. Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman told the court that this was, in her words, one of the most premeditated and calculating murder conspiracies she had prosecuted in 31 years, describing the motive as rooted in greed. On April the 11th, 2025, a jury convicted Monica Sementilli of first-degree murder and conspiracy, with special circumstance allegations of financial gain and lying in wait. On June the 23rd, 2025, Judge Ronald S. Cohen sentenced her to life without the possibility of parole, stating in court that she was the mastermind behind the conspiracy. The case number was BA 452975, prosecuted by Deputy District Attorneys Beth Silverman and Heather Stegel. This case was later featured in a CBS 48 Hours episode titled The Monica Sementilli Affair, as well as an episode of ABC's 2020. Both of the couple's daughters have publicly maintained their mother's innocence. That's case number 4, nearly a decade from the crime itself to the conviction. If long-running investigations like this one interest you, make sure you're subscribed, because we cover cases like this in extended form on this channel. On to case number 5. Linda Doreen Duffey, later known as Linda Gwozdz. This case involves a woman who changed her name, moved across the country, and remarried, years before investigators caught up with her. Linda Doreen Duffey was approximately 49 years old at the time of the crime and 57 at the time of her sentencing. Her husband, Patrick Albert Duffey, was 50 years old, a radio engineer, a private pilot, and a licensed gun owner. The couple had 2 adult sons, who later testified in support of their mother at her sentencing hearing. On April the 26th, 2007, at the couple's home on Sharon Hill Drive in East Whittier, Patrick Duffey died from gunshot wounds. Linda called 911 and told responders that she had accidentally fired a .38 caliber revolver that she believed was unloaded, describing the shooting as the result of what she called fan firing the weapon. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, through its Norwalk Station Homicide Unit, investigated the case over a period of several years. A blood spatter expert, Paul Delhauer, concluded that the physical evidence at the scene contradicted Linda's account of an accidental discharge and instead indicated that the shots were fired at close range. Investigators also noted inconsistencies across her various statements to police. During the years the case remained open, Linda relocated to Mississippi, remarried, took the surname Gwozdz, and changed her physical appearance. She was formally charged on May the 18th, 2012, and arrested 4 days later, on May the 22nd, in Mississippi, with the assistance of a United States Marshals Fugitive Task Force. The case was filed under case number VA 124916. Her first trial, held in 2014, ended in a hung jury. A second trial followed, and on January the 23rd, 2015, a jury convicted her of second-degree murder along with a sentencing allegation for the discharge of a firearm. On April the 24th, 2015, she was sentenced to 40 years to life in prison. The case was prosecuted by Deputy District Attorney Robert Villa before Judge John A. Toribio. Her conviction was upheld on appeal, and a subsequent appeal was reported as dismissed in November of 2025. The investigation was led by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department's Norwalk Station, in coordination with the District Attorney's Office. Some procedural details in this case rely on single-source reporting and, where possible, should be cross-referenced against the original court record. That's case number 5. 5 years between the crime and the arrest, and 8 years total before a final conviction. If cold case-style investigations are your thing, we cover several more of them on this channel. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss them. Now, case number 6. Ahang Mirshojae. Before we go further, an important note. This case has not yet gone to trial. The individual named in this case has pleaded not guilty and is presumed innocent under the law. Everything that follows describes allegations made by prosecutors, not established facts. Ahang Mirshojae, also known by the name Ahang Kelk, is 53 years old and resides in Calabasas. The alleged victim is Dr. Hamid Mirshojae, 61 years old, an addiction medicine physician who operated a clinic in Woodland Hills. Ahang and Hamid had been legally divorced following a lengthy and contentious legal dispute that spanned roughly a decade, and the two share 3 children. According to prosecutors, on August the 23rd, 2024, at approximately 5:30 in the afternoon, a masked individual shot Dr. Mirshojae in the parking lot outside his clinic on Topanga Canyon Boulevard in Woodland Hills before fleeing the scene. Prosecutors have also connected Ahang Mirshojae to an earlier alleged incident on May the 3rd, 2024, involving an attack on the same individual using a baseball bat. Prosecutors allege that Ahang Mirshojae arranged for the killing in exchange for payment. According to Fox 11 Los Angeles, Deputy District Attorney Ben Schwartz stated that an individual named Evan Hardman, 41, of Texas, the alleged shooter, confessed to police following his arrest and told officers that Ahang Mirshojae had paid him money to carry out the killing of her ex-husband. 2 additional individuals, Sarala Jawed, 26, of Canoga Park, and Ashley Rose Sweeting, 40, of Reseda, have also been charged, with Sweeting facing an accessory charge. The defense, led by attorney Donald Marks, has argued that Ahang Mirshojae had no financial motive, stating that the victim's will directed his assets into a trust intended for the couple's 3 children rather than to Ahang directly. Ahang Mirshojae was arrested on December the 12th, 2024, and formally charged on December the 16th, 2024, with murder, with special circumstance allegations of financial gain and lying in wait, along with assault with a deadly weapon. She has pleaded not guilty and is currently being held without bail. Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman announced the charges publicly, and Deputy District Attorney Schwartz described the killing, in his own characterization, as what he called an assassination, a characterization from the prosecution, not a proven fact. The Los Angeles Police Department conducted the investigation. In August of 2025, the victim's family filed a wrongful death civil lawsuit. That's case number 6, and we want to be very clear again. No verdict has been reached in this case, and it should be understood strictly as a set of allegations at this stage. We will update this story if and when a trial concludes. If you want us to follow up on this case specifically, once there's a resolution, subscribe now so you don't miss that update. Case number 7 is next. Case 7, Erica Artavia Campbell. A note before we begin this case. The relationship at the center of this case was a dating relationship, not a marriage. We're including it here as an additional Los Angeles County case, but it does not involve a husband, and we want to be transparent about that distinction. Erica Artavia Campbell was 27 years old at the time of her conviction. The individual who died in this case was her boyfriend, Markion Taylor, 24 years old, who was visiting Los Angeles from Tennessee at the time. On April 2, 2012, at an apartment in Pomona belonging to Campbell's brother, Taylor died from a stab wound sustained during an altercation between the two. Campbell was subsequently arrested and charged in connection with his death. On February 11, 2014, a jury convicted Campbell of second-degree murder. She was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. The case was covered by CBS Los Angeles, and the conviction was confirmed through releases from the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. Detailed forensic and procedural information about this specific case is more limited in the public record compared to the other cases in this list, and where possible, viewers seeking deeper detail should consult the original Los Angeles County Superior Court docket. That's case number 7. As we noted, this one falls slightly outside the strict criteria for this list, since Taylor was a boyfriend rather than a husband. But Los Angeles County domestic homicide cases involving female defendants remain limited in number, and we wanted to include it for completeness. One case left. Let's finish with case number 8. Case 8. Angelique Spurlock. As with our previous case, we want to be transparent from the outset. This case involves a live-in boyfriend rather than a husband, and the publicly available documentation on this case is more limited than the others featured in this list. We include it here as a supplementary case, and we'd encourage anyone seeking further detail to review primary court records directly. Angelique Spurlock was convicted in connection with the death of James McQuater, her live-in boyfriend, in Palmdale, within Los Angeles County. According to available reporting, Spurlock was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 40 years to life in prison. Because detailed investigative and trial information for this case is limited in secondary reporting, we are presenting only what has been consistently confirmed across available sources. The conviction, the sentence, and the location of the case within Los Angeles County's Antelope Valley region. Viewers interested in the complete procedural history of this case are encouraged to consult Los Angeles County Superior Court records directly, as several specific details reported here rely on single-source local news coverage rather than court documents. That's case number 8, and that completes our list. Closing: 8 cases, 8 investigations, 6 involved wives and their actual husbands, 2 involved boyfriends, included here to round out this list, and clearly marked as such throughout. 1 case, Ahang Mirshojae, remains open, with no verdict reached, and the defendant is presumed innocent unless and until a jury says otherwise. What connects most of these cases is not drama, it's evidence. Toxicology reports, blood spatter analysis, forensic accounting, digital communications, cell phone records, autopsy findings. These are the tools that turn suspicion into conviction, case after case, across 3.5 decades in Los Angeles County. If this case list gave you what you came here for, do 3 things right now. Hit that like button, drop a comment telling us which case deserves a full deep dive episode, and subscribe to Truth to Bear Crime Stories so you don't miss the next one. We'll see you in the next case file.